I'm so glad that we can have these meetings in person again. I mean, we've been virtual for so long, and having it back in person just feels so much better. Getting to be able to actually interact with each other, talk to each other, have conversations, it's been really helpful. So thank you again for making it out to the State Building today. First item on our agenda is the call to order, and for this, we usually go to our recording secretary, but she's not able to make it today. So with that, Executive Director Garcia, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Avalos.
Present.
Baraka. Lee.
Oh, sorry. Present.
Barry.
Present.
Campos.
Present by proxy.
Chen.
Present by proxy.
Dufty.
Here.
Galata.
Here.
Ibanez.
Here.
Kim.
Present by proxy.
Lacroix.
Present.
Member Lee's excused. Loftus.
Present by proxy.
Lovett.
Present.
Mahogany.
Present.
Mandelman.
Here by proxy.
Mar.
Present by proxy.
Member Maliga is excused. Peraza.
Present.
Raju.
Zaki here as proxy.
Ronan.
Present by proxy.
Member Thomas is excused. Member Tung. Member Williams.
Present by proxy.
Member Zoe.
Present by proxy.
Member Pelosi.
Present by proxy.
Mullen. Kounalakis. Ma.
Present by proxy.
Member Cohen is excused. Wiener.
Present by proxy.
Haney.
Present by proxy.
And Ting. You have 25 members.
Thank you. I believe that means that we have quorum.
We'll now move on to agenda item number 2, which is the approval of the meeting agenda. I believe that we do have one late item that was added to the agenda, item number 8. So do we have a motion to add the item and approve the agenda as amended?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Lacroix and seconded by Ibanez. I believe we can do this by acclamation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? Thank you, colleagues. We'll now move on to item number 3, which is the approval of the meeting minutes. I'm going to motion to table this item. Our recording secretary has assured us that she will be updating, getting all the minutes updated through February by our next meeting date. So can we have a motion to table this item until the following meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Member Ibanez. Is there a second? Member Lacroix. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the agenda is approved as, the agenda is approved as amended, and we have approved the tabling of the meeting minutes. We'll now move on to item number 4, which is the general public comment. Each speaker has 1 minute to give public comment, and for this portion, I will turn it over to our Executive Director, Moises Garcia. Actually, before we go on to public comment, we do have an update from Susan Pfeiffer, who is going to report from the Democratic Party, I believe, right, on party business. Is that right?
You can go now. There's an item for you if you want to wait. There's an item for you if you want to wait.
Oh, okay.
Did you want to wait, or did you want to do it at the beginning?
Then I'll wait for that, but I have another public comment.
Okay, great. So we will then just proceed with public comment, and you'll give your update later.
So you've added it to the agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You have it down. Yeah.
Very good to know. Do I need this, or?
You'd like
You do just for the sake of the.
Oh.
I'll turn.
Can you see me?
You on the side.
First thing I wanted to mention is January 31st, which is a week away, is the end of open enrollment for Cover California. And I'm a broken record, but I'm going to mention it every time because a lot of people are suddenly getting laid off and about to lose their health care. I've heard from several. So we have until January 31st. They can enroll up to that day. If they're laid off this month, they still have 60 days to enroll in Cover California. So it's not as urgent, but we need to get the word out to them. And if you know of anyone, if you have constituents that are losing their job, Many of them are getting COBRA from the employer. They should not rely on COBRA for longer than the employer is paying for it. Because sometimes they will take it for a certain amount and then they sign up to extend it, and you don't want to do that. You can't get off it and it's expensive. So if the former employer is paying for COBRA, that's okay, but only for the time period that they're paying for it. And then after that, go on Cover California, because you can get caught in it. And we want to make sure people are covered. And then I will talk about the organizing committee in a little bit, except the Bay Area Coalition, which is sort of part of that, but also separate, has had their kickoff meeting on Zoom this week. And we are doing phone banks for Tom Swazi in New York for the special election. And he was in town on Monday for a meet and greet, and he's really a stellar candidate, so we want to win one more seat and reduce the difference in Republicans and Democrats again, and he's a great candidate. So if anyone wants to make calls, we're doing it on Wednesday afternoon from 2:30 to 4:30 because of the time difference. And I'll do the rest during the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Jupiter. Yeah. So just state your name and Jupiter is student time.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Stevens. I am here to ask you to support chartering the San Francisco Working Families Democratic Club. Our purpose is to bring more multiracial working class people into the Democratic Party by focusing on low stress, high fun activities. Since COVID and before, we've been battling high rent, bills, you name it. It's been a struggle. People are tired. And people want to spend their free time with their friends, their family, their dogs, not necessarily, going out to intimidating political events where they might not know anyone, which can be kind of stressful, right?
30 seconds.
Oh, 30, okay. So how does our club address this? By building on what people want to do, doing things in their limited free time that they want to do, such as hosting community-first events for friends, family, generally for fun, that are based on music, things people like to do, and building like-minded community, and just having people learn about party involvement. Our club is multilingual with a commitment to accessibility. We really just want to bring the unity back into community. I'll take questions. Thank you.
Time. Perfect.
Hi, my name is Anaisa Ucedo. I am also here to request your support into the San Francisco Working Families Democratic Club. As a San Francisco resident, it's inevitable to see the huge gap that has come to our communities because everyone is just so stressed out with everything going on. And we want to make sure that we're able to provide all the information everyone needs, everything that they can do, and get all the information that they can to be involved into our community. I want to make sure that we are committed to inclusion, and this means hosting citywide events to bring everyone together and for the whole family, for working families, and providing essential information for volunteering and involvement with the club. Thank you so much.
Good evening, my name is Alan Beltran. I'm a first-generation Filipino-American Bay Area native. And I'm here to ask for your support for the Working Families Democratic Club. Far too many people like me aren't involved in this. I'll be honest with you. I've been growing up here in the Bay Area, and I'm sick and tired of people like me not getting involved. And I think this is the avenue for us to get more people into the Democratic Party to get involved. I grew up in Vallejo, and too many of my people didn't get involved. We all know what's going on there.
30 seconds.
So I'm just asking, please, we're gonna make this accessible to everybody. It's going to be fun. We're going to make it easy and not intimidating. Thank you very much, and free Palestine.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Diane Ruiz. I'm here on behalf of the Race and Equity in All Planning Coalition, a coalition that represents over 36 grassroots and community organizations, affordable housing developers, cultural districts, and community groups. San Francisco Democrats need to send the governor and our state legislators a strong message by passing the resolution before you this evening. I believe it's item number 8, urging them to reinstate the proposed cuts to affordable housing. These cuts will severely harm historically marginalized communities across the state. In particular, the cuts will harm several communities, including low-income families, people facing foreclosures, veterans, students, young adults leaving foster care, as well as first-time and low-income homebuyers. Affordable housing is a critical and urgent need in California that requires additional funding and prioritization from the state and our federal leaders, rather than steep cuts that would harm our communities and exacerbate the existing affordability issues across the state. Thank you.
Good evening, committee members. I'm Anna Christina Rana. I'm also a member of the Race and Equity in All Planning Coalition. I am also speaking to item number 8, the resolution around the affordable housing budget cuts. On behalf of our Housing Justice Coalition, we are calling on DCCC to call on the state legislature to finalize a budget that puts affordable housing first, and want to emphasize that these steep budget cuts will severely hamper San Francisco's ability to meet our goal for 57% affordable housing, as well as the equity provisions outlined in the San Francisco housing element, which our coalitions fought very hard for the city to prioritize, and these will be put in jeopardy due to these steep budget cuts. So thank you.
Hello, Bianca Von Cree, candidate for the United States House of Representatives, District 11, the first transgender woman ever to run for that office. I am endorsed by the Arab Resource and Organization Coalition, tacitly supported by the San Francisco Chronicle. I'm the only Democrat to take the Green New Deal back to formula to integrate the fusion age. And we have built a worldwide organization of 500 people from Kyoto to Istanbul to run this campaign. You can find more information about us at biancaforsanfrancisco.org.
30 seconds.
Thank you. I also have a nationally syndicated radio show on MAGA Radio called The Progressive Report, and we're winning back working class Republicans on issues like Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and universal basic income. I even got Steve Bannon to call for a wealth tax. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. We will now move on to item number 5, which is officer reports, starting with the chair's report. If we don't mind, can we give the treasurer report first? Because I think that'll also feed into the chair's report. Is that possible? Our treasurer isn't here.
What I can say is that I can't do account balances
Okay.
on me, but we have switched our banking. So we were with First Republic, and since they were acquired by JP Morgan, they don't really want to handle political accounts, and so we've now transferred all our funds to California Bank and Trust. So we're now with California Bank and Trust. I'm going to provide you account balances later this week.
Sounds good.
And just a reminder for folks to also use the microphones just so that we make sure that we capture everybody's voices on the video for people who will be watching this at home. My chair's report, we have been very busy with fundraising. We have been trying to make sure that we get all our accounts paid. So Moises and I have been making our calls. At this point, we're very, very healthy in our state funds. We do need a little bit more support in our federal funds, which is always the case. So if there are people who have been thinking about making a personal donation to the Democratic Party at this time, this would be a really, really good time for you to do that. So please do donate. In fact, you can consider a monthly donation to the Democratic Party will actually support us in doing our work. Right now, our work is really to get out the word around our endorsements. And so we have a goal of reaching about $150,000 voters over this next month. We'll be sending out our slate card as well as doing another card specifically on behalf of the judges' races. So we have a lot of work cut out for us. We're also going to be doing outreach via social media and Instagram because we know that not everybody looks at the mail. Mail is a really important part of our outreach, but it is not the only part, and we can't be completely pushed out of those other fields as well, especially with younger voters who we need to reach. So we're exploring all of those options and raising money to be able to make them happen. So again, if anyone has a friend with money who would like to donate, if anyone is a part of an organization who has funds to donate, please do so in the next couple weeks so we can make sure to spread the word about the Democratic Party's endorsements. With that, I will pass it on to reports of our vice chairs, starting out with our Vice Chair of Outreach, Leah Lacroix.
Hello. We'll echo you in saying please donate to the Democratic Party. I don't have my notes with me. They are on my phone and I have no service in here, but I will just say that there are tons of ways to get involved with the campaigns that we have endorsed for this March primary. Thank you, Moises, for sharing some of them out via email. Please look forward to an email with more opportunities to get involved with our endorsed candidates this election cycle.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lacroix. Vice Chair Braca is not here, so we'll skip over that. Vice Chair Galata, do you have a report for communications? No report. Issues and resolutions, Vice Chair Lovett.
Thank you, Chair Mahogany. So from the resolutions you see today, there is certainly a history there, and certainly around the ceasefire resolution. We had hundreds of emails and people showing up for public comment. So much agony, so much trauma from something half a world away, but touching our lives very immediately. And so I want to acknowledge Member Berry for bringing this resolution and working through that. We had a meeting on Friday of the Issues and Resolutions Committee, allowing members to come and really just talk through, and we think we have a strong resolution. We can say more about that. And just want to acknowledge the courage it takes to speak up, right? Speak up for people and for human rights. Also the Safeway resolution, there has been some news that Safeway is deciding to stay open, I think through the end of the year. And the work is not done. We understand that there are a lot of corporate financiers, and so there are agendas being decided in boardrooms. It's not about people and ensuring there's healthy food, not food deserts, so thank you for bringing that too. And then thank you all for accepting the emergency resolution on the proposed cuts from Governor Newsom. I do have a request around just amending that title to be more accurate, but I'll get to that later. And I'll pass back.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lovett. We'll now move on to club chartering. Member Thomas wasn't able to make it today, but I do know that we actually have a club to be chartered, the San Francisco Working Families Democratic Club. I know we had representatives speak on that earlier. Is there anything else that you all would like to say before we take a vote on approving this club?
Please approve it. Please.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. And Director Garcia, have they met all the requirements for chartering?
Yes, they have.
Okay, great. At this time, I believe, we are able to approve the San Francisco Working Families Democratic Club to be chartered. Is there a motion to approve? Thank you by Member Dufty, seconded by Vice Chair Lacroix. I believe we can do this by acclamation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the club is approved unanimously. Congratulations. We will now move on to a report from our Executive Director, Moises Garcia.
Memberships.
No.
No.
So I'll combine the Henny's report as well. She couldn't make it, unfortunately. She just wanted me to relay that I think most of you have received an email from the state party about the district level delegate applications opening to be DNC delegates. So those opened last week and remain open until March 21st. So there's 3 ways to become a delegate to the DNC. There are district level delegates, and there are 7 positions open for CD11. And then there's also at-large delegates, and then there are party leader and elected official delegates. So the way to get involved for folks is really the district level delegation and the at-large delegates. And I'll send out more information about those if folks are interested. Additionally, applications have also opened up to be one of the 24 elected DNC members. That was opened up last week as well and remain open until April 17th. And I'll forward that out to everyone. And as well as most of the dates for the state, for the e-board, there'll be an e-board meeting again in Southern California over Memorial Day weekend, most likely. And then there'll be another e-board which will be online in August, and then in-person e-board in December. There won't be a state level convention this year since it will be the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. That's it.
Thank you so much, Director Garcia. We will now, Susan Pfeiffer, did you have another update you wanted to give us? All right, we'll turn it now over to our very good friend, Susan Pfeiffer.
Yeah, this is, I guess, the first full year that the state party organizing committee is really going to be active. We haven't seen it this aggressive before, and they have paid organizers that we're working with, and then they are going to be doing phone banking, canvassing, voter registration, and it's a little bit combined. The Bay Area Coalition is also part of it. Everybody's working together, so it's a little hard sometimes to figure where one leaves off and the other begins. But we've already started phone banking for the Central Valley, CA 22 and CA 13. In CA 22, there actually are 2 Democrats running for the nomination. But because Rudy Salas was endorsed by the state party at the convention, we can start making calls for him. So we're starting to phone bank, and then Adam Gray is the candidate in CA 13, and is the lone Democrat, so we can start calling for him. We're doing more work in CA 22 because it's actually a little closer to us, and it's one that we have been trying to win. We came so close, we were less than 1,000 votes away last time. So right now we're calling voters and more or less either introducing them to Rudy Salas or Adam Gray, or making sure they know who they are and reminding them about the primary and asking them what issues are most important to them to begin to draw them out. And then once the primary is over, it will be full speed ahead. The state party has some money they're putting up for the word's gone out of my head, but it's for people that want to go there in person to canvass, stipends, that's it. That there will be some stipends for meals and or hotel, and they are reaching out to locals in the community, to Democrats, to provide supporter housing as well. So they want to get as many people as possible to come from the Bay Area on the weekends to door knock once the primary is over, and that's coming up pretty quickly. But I call phone banking canvassing remotely, and we can do that from here. And we've got a wonderful dialer system called Scale to Win that California was the first to use, and it's now going to be used by the DNC for the presidential election. And we used it today for calling into New York. It's a really good system. And so we can make calls locally. We can do them virtually via Zoom. We may have some offices to do them in person. We're gonna do a hybrid of that. But we need to get people on the phones, calling voters, because those 2 California counties can make the difference in taking back the House. And we were feeling pretty confident we can hold the Senate, even though, do you all follow Simon Rosenberg? He was the one person that said that we were not going to lose in 2022. Everybody else said there would be a red wave. He's a longtime Democratic operative. He said, no, there's not. And with the exception of New York and California in the House, we would have held the House as well, but we won back the Senate and an extra seat. We did not lose, and he is very high on winning. So we need to hold the California Central Valley so we can take back the House. So, and I was just talking to my friend Sarah Souza, who is already starting to work on getting a team of Spanish speakers, and I will be working closely with her. Spanish speakers are gold. We need that in the Central Valley because they will listen to another Spanish speaker. So if you know anyone who's willing, and I know it's going to be supervisor races and other races in San Francisco, and this Central Committee tends to obsess over those, and I understand that, it's hometown. But if you can do both, if you can help make calls for the Central Valley and help us win, that would be really, really appreciated. So that's it, thanks.
Thank you, Susan. We really appreciate all the work that you put into organizing all of that for us, so thank you again. So we will now move on to item number 6, which is our first resolution. This is a resolution calling for a sustained ceasefire in Gaza, humanitarian aid, release of hostages, and condemning anti-Semitic, anti-Palestinian, and Islamophobic rhetoric and attacks. This is Member Berry's resolution. Can I have a motion to consider this item? Thank you, Member Ibanez, and a second from Member Avalos. Member Berry, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to start off by saying happy belated Martin Luther King Day, members and members of the public. And with that spirit, I would like to read a quote from the Dr. Martin Luther King. The promises of the great society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, King said in a speech in Beverly Hills on February 25th, 1967. Billions are liberally expended for this ill-considered war. The security we profess to seek in foreign adventures, we will lose in our decaying cities. The bombs in Vietnam explode at home. They destroy the hopes and possibilities for a decent America. I hope that that quote resonated with someone, that what's going on over in Gaza is felt throughout the world, and that is why I decided to risk speaking and using my voice to submit this resolution. I apologize, I have to maneuver in a way without Wi-Fi, but please bear with me. Well, I'll just get into it because I just, no, I saved something, yeah. I'm trying to find it.
Do you need a minute?
I actually do, because it's important.
Okay, should we table this and move on to the next one?
Please.
Okay.
Well, the next one's Safeway.
Why don't we move on to number 8?
I think we can knock Safeway out pretty quick.
Well, okay. Why don't we go to Safeway then, and then we can go to item number 8, and then you can take some time to get your stuff together.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. So item number 7 is a resolution urging Safeway to reverse plan to close Safeway store in the Fillmore in March 2024. This is Member Berry's resolution. And I know you have some amendments you'd like to make given the update on that situation. But to consider this item, Colleagues, can I have a motion to consider? Is there a second? So I heard Vice Chair Lacroix and then Vice Chair Galata. Member Berry, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. It's good. I'm very aware that there's breaking news that there's been a year extended to the Safeway closure, but my message still stands. Everything in the resolution still stands, except for I would like to amend the first resolved where it says in March 2024 and just strike that. Otherwise, as a Fillmore born and raised native, I remember when we had Foodland, Lucky's, and I remember when we fought for Safeway, when they redeveloped the area, bulldozed, and promised the community we'd get to live there, but that we would have a grocery store. That grocery store is relevant. I actually live in D10 and go to that grocery store to get particular ingredients that not only, but a lot used in the Black community. I know they have a significant amount of Asian ingredients in that particular Safeway that the community uses. And to tell people, we don't want you to have cars, we want walkable city, and then take the grocery store is an oxymoron. So I'm thankful that the mayor is negotiating, but we still need more. We need them to work with the community. We need the community to be able to see the deals being made, who's representing the community, and if they are in a consultant capacity or true patrons of that store. Other than that, I think you all know the deal on this one. That's my comment. If anybody has a comment on this, I appreciate that. Otherwise, I think this is a no-brainer.
Would anyone else like to provide comment on item number 7? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution? Member Avalos and seconded by Member Banez. I think this is one we can do by acclamation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. Congratulations, member.
Co-sponsors?
Yes, actually that's a great question. We probably should have done that before we voted, but we're still adjusting to being in person. Who would like to be added as a co-sponsor? Normally we just type this in the chat.
Cool. I have Barry, Ibanez, Mahogany, Galata, Peraza, and McCall.
Perfect. Anyone else? All right, well, congratulations, Member Barry. If you want to go out and get reception in the hallway or something so that you can prepare your notes and come back, that would be fine. For now, we will move on to item number 8, a resolution urging Governor Newsom and state legislators to reject proposed $1.2 billion in cuts to affordable housing programs and to fulfill fair housing mandates for California residents. This is a resolution brought forward by Vice Chair Levitt and Member Avalos. Colleagues, can I have a motion to consider the item? Thank you, Vice Chair Lacroix. Is there a second? Seconded by Member Ibanez. Vice Chair Levitt. Member Avalos, the floor is yours.
First of all, I just have a quick amendment just for clarity in the title. So it says, resolution urging Governor Newsom and state legislators to reject the proposed $1.2 billion in cuts. So technically, because Newsom is proposing the cut, so urging Newsom to restore, so just adding those 2 words. And that didn't quite make it into the Google Doc that then became the official resolution. So do we need a motion for that? Okay, okay, great, that's a motion.
So move.
Second.
Okay, great.
All those, we can do that once it's
Sounds good. Okay, great. So, yeah, I'll speak to this, and I'll start with the glass being half full first. And so we've actually seen billions of dollars in California that have been invested in affordable housing in recent years. And so I just really want to lift up that this has been a priority recognized by our state leaders. And these investments really pay off for individuals to thrive, for communities to benefit, so that people who are in precarious situations do not get sicker, do not get harmed, or need expensive interventions that end up costing everyone more because they have a roof over their heads. Housing is a virtuous cycle. Lack of housing can be a vicious one, right? It's heartbreaking stories. And sometimes people get displaced because their homes flooded from broken pipes or from too much rain in an old apartment, or they've lost their jobs and they've fallen behind on rent, so true during the 3 years of the pandemic, or they're kicked out for higher paying tenants. That is a story that is often told in San Francisco. And I've heard from colleagues, I have worked with students, I've seen it in so many places. And John and I also work at the Council of Community Housing Organizations, so we're trying to get people through that door to affordable housing and a better life. So these reductions proposed by the governor would cut critical programs that give people housing options and also keep people housed and provide an opportunity for workforce development, for all the things, the community aspect that comes with affordable housing. So in context, the $1.2 billion of the proposed cuts actually represents about 23% of the $5.2 billion that the state has committed to this endeavor since 2019. So it's penny wise and it's pound foolish, right? Even with the budget deficit that we're looking at, to go back on these promises. So specifically, there's some programs I want to call out. So it's almost $250 million cut from the foreclosure intervention housing program is called FIP. $250 million that's clawed back from the multi-housing family housing program, and a lot of affordable housing providers really count on those funds to really sort of stack up what they need to build any particular project. $300 million from regional grants known as REAP 2.0. And then there's all these other programs for first-time homeowners, veterans housing, and for preventing homelessness. So this is really significant. It is multi-year. But, again, if we're not investing this now, we are going to see the hurt down the line. City leaders and staff, nonprofit housers, and advocates around the state have been making plans for these dollars. We've been on these calls at Choo Choo. They're getting ready to work with the state and deliver on the programs. So the cuts do not help people in need. They do not help our economy or position us for a real recovery. So I'll be direct. If Governor Newsom is running for something, he should have the backs of working class people so that he has a solid platform to run on in the future. As the Democratic Party, we show our values by allocating resources in a way that supports people and communities. And when the economy is bad, we reinvest and we recommit to those values. Housing is a human right. And if you're just talking about the dollars and cents, it makes so much sense, because if you're funding affordable housing today, and it seems very expensive, it is, right? We can't just wait, because it will be more cost effective, not just for individuals and families, but for our society down the line. So asking for that consideration as you look at this resolution. So please vote in support.
Member Lovett, you started your comments saying glass half empty, and sometimes I'm just happy there's a glass. The state of California over the past several years has been pushing a program that would create these higher levels and formulas for reaching housing goals that are 3 times what they were in the last cycle of housing production under the regional housing needs allocation process. In San Francisco, the last RHNA cycle, that's what that acronym stands for, Regional Housing Needs Allocation, we actually met, we exceeded our market rate goals, but we underperformed our affordable housing goals by about 10,000 units. It's significant. Now we have a RENA cycle where those numbers are tripled. And there's been incredible pressure across the state of California. Jurisdictions across the state of California have been under enormous pressure to actually streamline and move away barriers that market rate developers find in the way to actually build housing and actually make profit off housing. And now we have housing development stalled completely across the state of California. So the new goal in San Francisco, which mirrors other jurisdictions in terms of its magnitude, is 82,000 total units. But of that is 46,598 units that have to be below market rate. And the state has not provided any funding whatsoever to be able to actually help jurisdictions like San Francisco and across the state reach these below market rate goals. So we tripled our production goals, but we have not provided those resources. And now we have a proposal from the governor who has been supportive of these loftier goals of production to cut $1.2 billion in programs that have been delayed over several years in their implementation, and now they're being cut entirely. And these have been the hope of communities across San Francisco to have, across California, to have funds for housing preservation or tenant protections or production of housing. And we just have to draw the line. If we want to actually have a realistic effort around housing production, we have to make sure that the state is also providing those resources and not cutting back at a time when people are really hurting for access to housing. Thank you. Hope you can support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Avalos. Is there anyone else who would like to provide comment on this item at this time? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve this resolution? With the amendment? Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Member Peraza. I think this is also one we can do by acclamation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Assemblymember Ting abstains. Any others? All right, the motion, sorry, say that again? Oh, are there any co-sponsors? Thank you. Are there any co-sponsors to this resolution?
I would like to abstain on behalf of Member So.
Okay, thank you very much. This resolution passes. Congratulations, Members Beloved and Avalos. Well, now, Member Bear, are you ready with your remarks? Okay, we'll now go back to item number 7, I believe. I'm sorry, item number 6, which is the resolution calling for a sustained ceasefire, and we will turn it back over to Member Berry.
Thank you so much, Chair, for your grace. Members, as an elected Democrat, I heard loud and clear every day people asking why the Democratic Party has been silent about what's going on in Israel. So many people from different viewpoints approached me at convention crying their eyes out, stating members of their family who have been killed. Some people were up to number 29 on how many family members have been killed, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. I know in October we attempted to introduce a resolution when the matter was still raw and not easy to wrap our words around in a way that would appease a lot of folks, and we decided to table it and send it to committee. Well, I really was concerned that this matter would not be brought up, and since then, I believe perhaps 400% of the amount of people killed have been killed now. I think we're at 25,000. I'm not sure the numbers, 30,000 maybe, and it's growing. And I just couldn't take being silent anymore. I know this is triggering for a lot of folks, but it can't be any worse than people who have loved ones over there. And like Dr. Martin Luther King says, what happens somewhere else affects all of us. I want to first thank people who have reached out to me with suggested amendments. Member Galata, Member Tung, Member Avalos, Member Lovett, Member LaCroix, and Member Baraka. If I forgot somebody, charge it to my Alzheimer's. No, I don't have Alzheimer's. But seriously, and I wanted to just speak on what a ceasefire is, because this is the meat and bolts of what this resolution about. A ceasefire in Israel is crucial for several reasons. Firstly, it can help alleviate the human suffering caused by the ongoing conflict. Civilians on both sides endure the physical and emotional toll of violence, with casualties and displacement becoming all too common. A ceasefire in hostilities would provide relief to these affected communities, allowing for medical assistance, humanitarian aid, and the chance for people to rebuild their lives. Secondly, a ceasefire creates an opportunity for diplomatic dialogue and negotiation. The entrenched nature of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict requires diplomatic efforts to address the root causes and find lasting solutions. A cessation of hostilities provides a conducive environment for peace talks, enabling both parties to engage in meaningful discussion without the immediate threat of violence. Additionally, a ceasefire can help prevent further escalation of the conflict. The situation in the region is highly volatile, with the potential for broader regional implications. By halting military operations, there is a chance to de-escalate tensions and avoid the devastating consequences of an all-out war. This not only preserves lives, but also safeguards regional stability. Moreover, international pressure for a ceasefire underscores the importance of respecting human rights and international law. The global community has a vested interest in promoting peace and stability, and a call for a ceasefire reflects a commitment to upholding fundamental principles. It sends a message that the world is united in its pursuit of a peaceful resolution to the Israel-Palestinian conflict. A ceasefire also allows for the assessment of the humanitarian situation on the ground. It enables aid organizations to reach affected areas, assess the needs of the population, and deliver crucial assistance. Humanitarian efforts, including the provision of food, water, and medical supplies, can be more effectively implemented in a situation where hostilities have ceased. Furthermore, a temporary halt in fighting can contribute to building trust between the conflicting parties. Ceasefires have historically served as a foundation for confidence-building measures, creating an atmosphere where both sides may be more willing to engage in a meaningful and sustainable peace process. Trust is the key component in resolving long-standing conflicts, and a ceasefire provides an initial step towards establishing that trust. Lastly, a ceasefire is essential for the protection of cultural heritage and infrastructure. The conflict often results in the destruction of historical sites, homes, and critical infrastructure. Members, I do have an amendment I want to put on the floor. I guess we call it the floor. In the first whereas, where it says international humanitarian aid, I'd like to strike the word aid and change it to the word law. Thank you, Chair Mahogany, for that. I didn't put you on the list of people that contributed to amendments. And then other than that, in October, I received 400 emails complaining about our resolution. And for this resolution, I received one. And this email said some of the suggestions that I discussed with Member Tung tonight about adding more about the leadership over there in Israel and in Palestine. And I don't feel I could take it upon myself to include those amendments, but if Member Tung would like to discuss it with the floor and we come to an agreement, then I'll be open to it, but I would really want to see what other members believe and feel, because I don't think I'm qualified to touch on certain things about when it comes to certain people's names and government and their elections and whatnot. But if there's a consensus that this would make a better resolution, I'm here for it. So Member Tung, Chair, would that be okay, Member Tung?
Sure, Member Tung, did you want to comment on the resolution?
Yes. First, I'd like to thank Member Berry for her bravery and for her graciousness, because these issues of international conflict are difficult ones, and particularly in this region where there have been long-standing conflicts, deeply rooted conflicts for many centuries. It is a complicated situation, but part of our charge here as the Democratic Party is to engage in discussion and educate other Democrats on all issues, on world issues, I think also. So what I saw in this newest iteration of Member Berry's resolution was a real balance that I think she tried to strike in looking at not just one side of the conflict versus the other, but in totality, and the very real, serious humanitarian crisis that is occurring there and how it affects Palestinians and Israelis as well. What I wanted to add was an amendment that really discussed the failure of leadership in the region on both sides. And the amendment that I would offer would be, if the members have the resolved paragraph, the first resolved paragraph, inserting this language before and at the end of the second line. So what it would read in totality is, resolved that the San Francisco Democratic Party joins in calling for a sustained ceasefire, provision of life-saving humanitarian aid in Gaza, the release of all hostages, and supports international calls to disarm and remove Hamas from power in Gaza, supports calls for immediate elections so Israelis can consider their future leadership for the sake of peace, and condemns anti-Semitic, anti-Palestinian, Islamophobic, and xenophobic rhetoric and attacks. I think this is something that really signals that it's not just a conflict that occurred. It's a conflict that occurs because both sides do have this failure of leadership, that there is a strategic methodology on one side and a denial of the freedoms of a people on the other side. And I think that the call to place the blame or place attention on the shortcoming of leadership is something that helps to balance this resolution. I think that having this language in the resolution would also bring more people to the table in terms of being able to vote for it. With that, I will turn it over to others who might comment on the amendment.
I'd like to second your motion.
All right, are there any others who would like to comment on this item? Member Avalos, and then Member Weiner.
I appreciate the effort to want to find some consensus on this measure. This is a late amendment that's coming our way. There was the Issues Committee that actually had the opportunity to actually incorporate such amendments coming forward. And I also find a real fault in talking about disarming when we have a ceasefire resolution, because the idea of a ceasefire is to expect that everyone is laying down their arms so there could be a settlement. But if this appears to be conditioning the ceasefire on disarming, Hamas being disarmed. I don't have an issue with calling on new leadership without providing prescriptions for how that new leadership should be attained. And I would welcome an amendment to this amendment that really just does that, calls on new leadership that doesn't have the word disarm. I would feel like I feel compelled I feel compelled by the hundreds of people that have been taking part in public comment at the Board of Supervisors and protests in San Francisco and the thousands and millions of people around the world to refuse amendments. But I also think that if we're in a place where we can find some consensus around new leadership, I think I'm willing to accept that and explain that to people later. But to actually say that a prescription for disarming doesn't make a lot of sense in a ceasefire resolution. And I also think that we've heard over and over again that that labeling Hamas as representing the entire will of the Palestinian people is also something that has been really problematic when there are so many people who are civilians, men, women, and children who have not been part of the fight, but more the struggle to live, that are not necessarily Hamas, and they're being killed in large numbers every day, up to 25,000 confirmed, and in many that are in the rubble, who are missing or can't be found. So I would like to amend that to say that we could soften that language to just say there should be new leadership on both sides of the barrier. To me, is something that could be unifying for us, and I hope we can find that consensus.
Thank you. We'll go to Member Weiner and then Member Ibanez.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Senator Weiner is in support of Member Tung's amendments, and with those amendments added in, he would be in support of the resolution.
First and foremost, I actually want to really thank Member Berry for really taking up the leadership to bring this up again, which is really, really important. And I do want to acknowledge that your resolution it's about the value of human lives. And I think that's what this resolution is about, and that's why it's being called for a ceasefire. I have a problem with the amendments that is being proposed by Member Tung. I feel that would really change the intent of the resolution. So I would not be supporting the amendment. I support Member Avalo's intent in coming up with something that is much more uniting. I believe this resolution, if we compare it to the first resolution back in October, it's completely different and it's actually very neutral. And to me, it's about saving human lives. It was said that there's about 25 to 30,000 people that have been killed. And I remember there's, I think, another data that I read in CNN that I believe that 3 out of 5 people are being killed in Gaza. And that should be a concern to all of us, that innocent people are getting killed, no matter where you stand on this issue. So for me, I would like to support what Member Avalos said. I would not support an amendment that is going to really politicize a resolution that's all about human life. And I stand on that.
Is there anyone else who'd like to comment? Zaki, you're representing.
Correct. Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on behalf of Member Raju, who I want to say in his personal capacity as well as in his capacity as the elected public defender of San Francisco has come out in support of a ceasefire and in support of a right to return for displaced Gazans. He was prepared to support this resolution, obviously unaware of the amendment that was just proposed. He will not be able, therefore, to support it if that amendment is added, and I'd like to shed light on why, from his perspective, through the conversation that I shared with him at length, the comments that Member Raju would make would be about the fact that this resolution, and it's very important that it is so focused, must be focused on ceasefire exclusively. I think that the resolution, Member Raju, what he said in his statement about the resolution that came before the Board of Supervisors, what we saw there, and the reason that Member Raju maintained his support for it was because it ultimately became focused exclusively on a ceasefire and did not get into the weeds about recommending policy beyond that, because of the fact that the primary focus at this time for Member Raju and for any other politician who feels compelled to take a stance, considering the fact that they don't have direct ability to engage in foreign policy, is just on the preservation of human life. And that is what calling for a ceasefire does. And adding in further calls for further policy and getting into the weeds from a policy perspective retracts from the importance of that unilateral focus. And that is why Member Raju would not be able to vote for this resolution if that amendment is added.
Thank you for Member Raju. Is there anyone else? Member Dufty.
I'd like to thank Member Tung, and I appreciate how you've reached out to develop this language. And I just want to say that for myself and for Supervisor Mandelman, we will be supporting Member Tung's amendment, and absent that, we will not be supporting the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Levitt.
I appreciate the courage that it takes to really try to find some common ground, understanding that so many lives are at stake. And I have an issue with disarm and remove, and that comes from seeing the history of the United States aiming for regime change on so many continents. Right, in Latin America, in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, decades of it, throwing so much money at trying to manipulate what is happening in other governments. So I think I would agree with Member Avalos that, if there's something general about, calling for new leadership, that's something decided by the people. That's something that I could be down with. But the idea of that implies something where the United States could once again be in a role of manipulating and instituting regime change is something I cannot get behind.
Thank you. Vice Chair Levitt, I have a question because there was a previous version of this resolution that did include more language, and what was the reason why it was the Issues and Resolutions Committee through that discussion landed on this version? Could you talk a little bit more about that? And maybe Member Berry can as well.
Yeah, and I defer to Member Berry because in the days that led up to our Issues and Resolutions Committee meeting, you had really kind of pared that down and I think reduced things, especially the whereases, to their essence. So.
Yes, what really shifted the resolution was the success of the Board of Supervisors resolution, and I wanted to include as much language that they did to be successful in passing a ceasefire resolution. I feel in San Francisco, of all places, we should be making some noise. I did want to respond to your amendments, Member Tung,
No.
I'm sorry, Member Berry.
Oh.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but my question
I've asked
was,
your question on
no, you didn't answer. Because you had a much longer resolution, and then this resolution is much shorter, and I feel like actually doesn't include a lot of the stuff that was in the Board of Supervisors version. So I was wondering what got you from there to here, because I think that speaks to what Member Tung is, her amendment would add more language back in. So I just wanted to hear from you why it was that that language was removed.
Got it. A lot of it was format because the Board of Supervisors resolution was all resolves, and we don't use that format. And it was very long, it was pages, and that would not be submittable here in this body. But we took the meat of their resolution that did pass and put it in our format, and to keep it simple and to not dig on either side and just ask for a ceasefire. So that's why the language significantly changed. It didn't need to be revisited that in October. All that was known information, so it was unnecessary to put that into the resolution because it's in the minutes.
Okay, so just to clarify, you simplified it to this version because you wanted to make it to focus on the ceasefire and not make it controversial to either side.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then in response to the amendments, I actually have wrote down to Member Tung that I did have a problem with the words disarm and remove, and I believe that's what the President of Israel constantly says to justify more deaths. So I will not be accepting that amendment. And then if we want to discuss adding that we would like to see new leadership or something simple like that, again, I don't think this should be my decision, but our decision.
Well, there's a motion currently on the floor that has been seconded to add the amendment. And there has not been a motion made on the other end to add it without the disarmament. So we only have that motion to go on at this point. So should we, parliamentarian, would we then vote on the motion to amend and then vote on the resolution?
If someone calls the question, then yes, we will need to vote. But as of this moment, we can still continue discussion. But it's until we have at least 3 motions on the floor that it triggers us having to vote and clear the floor.
Right. So
motion to amend the amendment.
Second.
okay, there's a motion to amend the amendment, and it has been seconded to.
I would say that we would, in the place where Member Tung discussed adding the first addition to the whereas clause.
And do you have that language? Or Member Tung, would you mind reading the language that you have?
Sure. Actually, she mentioned where the insertion should be. That's what I'm discussing right now. So instead of Member Tung's language amendment, we would amend her amendment to say after the release of all hostages in the first whereas clause. Before that and we would insert is calling for, and it would be new responsible leadership on both sides of the board. New responsible leadership on both sides of the board. And that would be it. And that could be inclusive of elections, it could be inclusive of new leadership in Gaza, but I don't feel comfortable conditioning a ceasefire on disarming and removing Hamas, because that would not be a ceasefire.
And that's been seconded by Member Peraza. And just for Member Tung, would you mind reading yours again as well, just because I feel like we have lost.
Sure. So in the insertion in the same place, supports international calls to disarm and remove Hamas from power in Gaza, supports calls for for immediate elections so Israelis can consider their future leadership for the sake of peace. So I would ask for a point of order from the parliamentarian that Member Avalos's amendment is not an amendment to my amendment, it's to supplant my amendment. It is that I'd ask for a ruling if that's proper, to just supplant the language with something else. All right, well, I appreciate Member Avalos's position, but I would say that the amendment does not reflect the reality that the Israeli government is different than Hamas. And that the way they have conducted themselves politically is very different from Hamas. And so I would not be voting or supporting his amendment to my amendment.
Is there anyone else who would like to provide comment? Is there a call to question?
I have one. If Member Avalos could repeat his amendment to the amendment.
So, yeah, my amendment would basically strike the language that Member Tug has provided, and it would basically say that calls for new responsible leadership on both sides of the border. And it does not condition ceasefire on removing and disarming Hamas. I don't know who the international community is that's calling for that, because the international community that I've heard from is actually does not say anything that wants a ceasefire. It's the unilateral position of the United States and Israel to continue the siege and the bombing and the ongoing genocide that's being prosecuted right now at the International Court of Justice. I don't know if a nation that is committing such large-scale removal of people from parts of Gaza and bombing them where on the way to finding sanctuary and bombing them in their sanctuaries is any behavior that is a reasonable behavior that any country should actually have. And comparing Hamas to that overall destruction is like comparing David and Goliath. I don't want to get into those aspects of discussion. But I actually think that we can find consensus on new leadership that isn't conditioning a ceasefire on the removal of and disarmament of Hamas is something that, if we all stand for a ceasefire, we should not have a problem with accepting.
I would just clarify that the language that my amendment does not condition a ceasefire on anything. It just supports international calls to disarm and remove Hamas from power in Gaza, and supports calls for immediate elections in Israel. It does not condition a call for a ceasefire on any of those things happening.
Member Baños?
I stand in support of Member Avalos' amendment. I think what we're talking about here is about a ceasefire. We're not talking about any government or any entities. The moment you start bringing any government or any entity, you're muddling this resolution. Again, it's about human lives. It's about what Member Avalos mentioned. There is genocide that is being committed. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. And to me, if we're gonna add anything besides the ceasefire, I would not support the resolution. However, I support the amendment that Member Avalos is mentioning, because it does not change the intent of the resolution. And to me, the intent of the resolution is really important. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, Member Peraza.
So I want to go back to the original resolution introduced by Member Barry. I would like to show my gratitude and my appreciation to Member Barry for introducing this resolution. I think it's a long time coming. And from the first iteration of this resolution a few months back, and from the overwhelming amount of public comment that we received during that meeting, it is very apparent that San Franciscans are looking towards this body to make a stance and to actually call for a ceasefire. And I just wanted to add that it could be very simple. We do not have to overcomplicate it. I think that this issue has caused a great deal of pain, of division, and of conflict. And I think we owe it to the residents of the city, the melting pot that is a city like San Francisco, where the United Nations was created. So I think that agreeing on the very simple fundamental elements of this resolution can really take us to as a body approve this resolution. And from my understanding, there seems to be more support from the original resolution that was introduced by Member Barry. So I would definitely call for us to return to that original resolution, because from what it seems like the amendments came at a very late notice, and it definitely could have avoided this discussion and also this conflict as well. So I definitely wanted to point that as well, and if it is possible to also make a motion for us to go to the original resolution, just to make sure that we get there.
Thank you. Vice Chair Lacroix, did you want to make a comment as well?
Yes, just ask for clarification. Are you making a motion to vote on the resolution as originally written, or are you suggesting that or is it just like a suggestion that we all just kind of vote on the motion as or the resolution as originally written and not consider the motions put forward by members Tung and Avalos?
I'm going to be bold and say that I proposed a motion to go back to the original resolution and vote on it as is.
Okay, give me 1 second.
All right, at this time we have 3 motions on the floor. A motion with an amendment from Member Tung, a motion supplanting Member Tung's amendment from Member Avalos, and a motion to go with the original resolution from Member Peraza. So at this time, I think that means that we have to start taking those votes. In what order do we take them, Parliamentarian?
Yes, thank you for giving me a moment to pause and reflect on rules of order. We would start with the last motion first and work our way backwards. So we would start with Member Peraza's motion to adopt the resolution as originally written. If that does not pass, then we would move to Member Avalos' substitute motion with the language that he's proposed. And if that does not pass, then we would go to Member Tung's amendment.
All right, I will just comment that that is in line with how we have done this in the past, where there have been multiple proposals on the floor. We have moved in that direction. So we'll start with, there needs to be a second.
Yes, I will second Member Peraza's motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Galata. We will now, I think, need to take roll call for this vote. Director Garcia, are you ready to take a roll? All right, why don't we go, and this is again for approving this resolution as is, as it is written.
Avalos.
Aye.
Baraka.
Aye.
Barry.
No.
Campos. John.
No. Yes.
Qua,
Yes.
Lee, excused, Loftus.
No.
Lovett,
Yes.
Mahogany,
Yes.
Mandelman,
No.
Mar,
Yes.
Oliga, excused, Braza,
Yes.
Raju,
Yes.
Ronan,
Yes.
Member Thomas is excused, Tom,
No.
Williams,
No.
Zoe,
Yes.
Pelosi,
No.
Mullins absent, Pollock is absent, Ma,
Abstain.
Cohen excused, Wiener,
No.
Haney,
Member Haney, I'm just gonna say, Member Haney said yes to the original resolution. He has not been a part of these conversations, so I can't vote on anything else. But he said yes, as is. Yes.
Ting,
Same.
there are 14 yes, 9 no, and 3 abstentions. Passes.
The resolution is passed.
Okay, since the resolution has passed as is, I believe that means that we do not consider the other motions. All right, congratulations, Member Barry. Your resolution passes without any amendment. I just want to acknowledge, thank you, body, for the civil discourse, for bringing forward amendments that I think were helpful to the conversation, and for voting your conscience. Thank you, everybody. That wasn't supposed to be our last agenda. Yes?
Were there any sponsors? Do you have any?
Oh, now you want to spread.
Ibanez, Apos.
Okay, we've added all the co-sponsors. That wasn't supposed to be our last one, but it is. But we do have our final piece, which is new business. At this time, is there anyone who would like to bring any new business forward to the body? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 10, which is adjournment. Are there any in memoriams that we'd like to offer at this time? You do have one, Member Barry?
I just would like to adjourn in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King's son, Dexter King, who died this week. Other than that, thank you all for wanting peace.
All right. In his name, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.